If I had zakat to pay from Ramadan that just passed, but still haven't paid it, however, I did note the figures down. How do I calculate the 2.5%? Do I pay on the figures at the time, or do I pay the figures that I have now currently? So, first of all, it must be understood that the majority of the scholars have recommended paying zakat immediately. As soon as it has become necessary, you should try and pay it ASAP. Reason being is that if a person dies in the state where he has not paid his zakat, he will be sinful. And we do not know when death is going to come. We are planning things for tomorrow, death can come today. So it'd be better to free ourselves from that responsibility and pay the zakat immediately. However, delaying the payment of the zakat would not affect its fardiyat. It wouldn't affect the fact that it's still necessary upon us, and neither would it affect its validity, and nor would it make us sinful. So a person wouldn't be sinful, and neither will now, you delayed it, now zakat is no longer necessary. Like for example, you have other acts, but zakat will still be necessary. Now, in terms of the calculation itself, that which figures do you have to pay according to? So you delayed the payment after its due date, you will pay according to the figures that you had when it was due on you. So like you said, in Ramadan, whatever figures you had then, you will calculate 2.5% on that, not on the figures you have right now. And just one more thing to clarify regarding this, is that lots of people think that zakat is for us in Ramadan, whereas that's not the case. The fardiyat of zakat is when a person becomes a malik of the nisab. He becomes an owner of the threshold. So nowadays, I'm not sure, last time I checked it was about 300, 400 pound. It changes according to the price of silver. But roughly about 300, 400 pounds. So when a person becomes an owner of 300, 400 pounds and a year passes and he is still owning that amount, then from that date where a whole year passed by, from that date is when zakat becomes necessary. So lots of people think that, Ramadan is the month just to distribute your zakat. And they don't, even in Ramadan, they don't have a specific date. Just in Ramadan, calculate zakat whenever. So, for example, when it was actually your due date, for example, let's just say November the 12th, and at that time you own £50,000, and in Ramadan your money has slightly been spent, you have £30,000. Now imagine how less zakat you are paying according to how much you should have paid. So lots of people think that Ramadan is the month for zakat, where in reality that is not the case. It is according to each and every person when they became malik of the nisab and a year passed upon it. Two more questions, inshallah. One question is, why in Islam can we only give zakat to Muslims? Why not other faiths? So there are two answers to this. Number one is, I'm not sure whether you're looking for the naqli dalil or the aqli dalil. Naqli dalil would mean proof from the Prophet ﷺ and the Quran. And aqli dalil would mean a logical reason. So I will present both. The naqli dalil is that even though initially at the time of the Prophet ﷺ, in the ayat that I just read, إِنَّمَا الصَّدَقَاتُ لِلْفُقَرَاءِ وَالْمَسَاكِينِ وَالْعَامِلِينَ عَلَيْهَا وَالْمُعَلَّفَةِ قُلُوبُهُم, that those people whose hearts are, towards Islam, at the time of the Prophet ﷺ, those people who had a slight interest in Islam and they just needed that slight push, it was allowed to give them zakat. That if you gave them zakat, maybe now they would come towards Islam. But however, there is an ijma, there is a unanimous decision of everybody that this has been abrogated. And this can be seen at the time of Hazrat Umar radiallahu anhu, that at his time it was not allowed. And how did it become abrogated? Then some people even say that the Prophet ﷺ himself abrogated it, where he was once talking to Hazrat Mu'adh ibn Jabal radiallahu anhu, and he said, تُخَذُ مِنْ أَغْنِيَائِهِمْ وَتُرَدُّ عَلَى فُقَرَائِهِمْ, that it will be, the zakat will be taken from their wealthy people and it will be returned to their poor people. Now there, the pronoun here, there, is in both cases referring to who? The Muslims. So just like how it will be taken from the Muslims, it will also be given back to the Muslims. That is the proof from the Quran and the Sunnah. Now if you are looking for a logical reason, then I will ask you that if your friend came to you and he asked you for some financial support, and at the same time your brother or your sister came to you and they asked for some financial support, I need to pay off my rent for this month, I really need it, I don't have any other money, who are you going to help? Who would we help? The brother and the sister. Because like we say, blood is thicker than anything else. We are going to help family first, no matter how close our other friends are. They may be close, but nobody is closer than family. So the same way here, we are going to help our Muslim brothers instead of the rest of humanity. Why? Because every single Muslim for another Muslim is a brother. إِنَّمَا الْمُؤْمِنُونَ إِخْوَةٌ فَأَصْلِحُوا بَيْنَ أَخَوَيْكُمْ. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala himself says in the Quran that the believers are brothers for one another. And in the hadith, the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam has also stated this. And we have been commanded, وَكُونُوا عِبَادُ اللَّهِ إِخْوَانًا, and become the slaves of Allah as brothers to one another. So our Muslim, fellow Muslims, they are our brothers. So just like how we would help our real brothers instead of our friends here, we are going to help our Muslim brothers first instead of the rest of humanity. And this is why in Shariat itself, it is commanded that if our actual brother or sister needed zakat, it would be preferable to help them than to help an outside person. And the same way, it would be preferable to help the people of our locality first before sending our zakat abroad. And I was mentioning before in the student loan masla, to give zakat, lots of our people, they send zakat abroad. They don't give it local. Obviously in England, the reason mainly for this is because we don't know of anybody who is eligible for zakat. But for example, a person who took student loan and he made it clear that, look, I'm in debt, then we should actually give it to them first rather than sending it abroad. So the same way the Shariat has advised us to help our family first, our brothers first with zakat, the same way we will help our Muslim brothers first over the rest of humanity. But that does not mean that we will just leave them. We don't care about the rest, the Christians, the other non-believers. Our Islam, our Shariat has educated us, they have given us advice that we should help them, not with our zakat, but with voluntary donations. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala help us, and may Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala accept the zakat of everybody that donates. The last question for today is, my husband and I have split up at least 5 years ago. I have had no contact from him and I do not know where he is. I would like to remarry now. Is this allowed? So the reason I'm sharing this with you is, again, there is, we can learn things as well from this. And the first thing that we need to understand is that a divorce does not take place, a divorce does not occur simply by a long period of separation taking place. Divorce does not occur by this separation. So if you look in the different books of fiqh, there will be a person who has been separated with his wife, in the same locality, they've been separated for over 25 years. But the husband didn't actually ever say talaq, never ever gave divorce, they were just separated, lived separately. They are actually still married. So the divorce hasn't taken place. And number two, I will tell you, even though it is very rare, so the sister that has messaged, they're trying to indicate that now they do not know the location she doesn't know the location of her husband. So in this scenario, what would be done? Usually, there is an example in the previous eras, you can say, where people would actually get lost because there was no WhatsApp, there was no means of communication. So the original Hanafi viewpoint would be that the wife would have to wait until the husband's contemporaries, people of his age, do not pass away. And the time fixed for that would be usually when that person is of 90 years of age. So no matter how old you are now, you would have to wait until that person would be 90. And according to some within our own Hanafi madhab, it would be until they are 120 years old. And at that time, after that period of time, we would be able to class the husband as dead. Because until he is alive, no matter where he may be, he's still your husband. However, due to the times of fitna and for it being very difficult to actually implement this, with the fear of zina, with the fear of, the husband hasn't left any money for us, and how are we going to survive, no maintenance for us. So, again, like we mentioned before, it is allowed to act upon another mazhab. Like we saw in the combination of the two salahs, we acted upon the mazhab of Imam Shafi. So again, here at the time of necessity, we are going to act upon the qawl and the opinion of Imam Malik rahmatullahi alayhi, who says that this case will be presented to the court and they will investigate and they will try to locate the husband. They will try their best to find the husband. And if after searching they are unable to locate him, what they will do is they will now issue a kind of waiting period for the woman that she will have to wait for 4 years. Instead of the full 90 or the other, however long it would take until the husband would be 90, instead of that, they would only have to wait for 4 years. And if there is a very, strong fear and possibility of zina and, faqr, etc., then 1 year. And if within that 4 years or 1 year the husband returned, then obviously he's back. And if not, if he's not come back within that time, he will be declared as dead. And then you would sit the iddah, and then as in the mourning period, and then you will be able to remarry. So again, just to take a few lessons from this case is very rare, but the main lesson, the reason why I shared this with you as well, instead of just replying back privately, was that a divorce does not take place just due to a long period of separation, because we see so many people now where the husband and the wife, they have a sort of argument. The husband's either kicked the wife out, she's gone and staying with her parents, but at no point was the words talaq said or written. So again here, no talaq would be issued. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala grant us the ability to act upon whatever has been said, and Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is the one with complete knowledge over everything. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala forgive me for any shortcomings. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala allow us to act upon whatever has been said. Wa akhiru da'wana alhamdulillahi rabbil alamin.
One question is to do with salah actually.
Ji.